Well, hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another CP Media podcast, brought to you, of course, by Team CP, your endurance coaching experts. I am Angus Petrie, and alongside me, Richard Greer, team captain. How are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. Good to have you back, Angus, on the podcast. It's been a little while.
It has been since we've done one of these. We've been, of course, doing all the way through the coast to coast specials, mate. But here we are.
Yep.
Here we are. Well, this is a special event anyway. We're doing a Ironman celebrating the great iron people, I suppose, aren't they?
That's right. Yeah, number 39 of Ironman. Next year's 40, so 2023. We're really looking forward to sussing out what went on, some stories, and we've got some great guests on tonight as well. So looking forward to sharing all the adventures and stories that went on last weekend.
I know. I'm in awe, really. One of my favourite people is on tonight. One of my idols, somebody who I like to look up to. And if I had a voice as good as him, I'd be super stoked, mate.
Yep, absolutely. So should we do some, sounds like we're just about to do a bit of an overview of the show for a start. So we're going to kick off the show with Mike Phillips. He's a newly crowned New Zealand Ironman champion. Mike went head-to-head all day with previous champion Braden Currie to finally pull away over the last part of the run and to win by 3 minutes, which was pretty awesome. So looking forward to having a catch-up with Mike to hear the inside word about how his day unfolded, as well as about his preparations, nutrition, and how he manages to get his body right to race so well. Then, as you were mentioning, Brian Ashby is coming in second place, which is awesome. So he was working behind the microphone this weekend rather than towing the start line, so had a different perspective on the day in both the elite race, but also supporting the age group athletes across the finish line, calling them in. So looking forward to Brian's insights on the event and also his training and racing tips for those looking on and taking on the challenge in the future. Obviously, Brian's done a number of Ironman races and been around the traps for a fair while doing that. Then we're going to have a chat to Megan Parr. So Megan completed her very first Ironman over the weekend. So put in a massive effort to cross the finish line just 15 minutes prior to cut-off. As amazing it is to hear how the elites blast around the course, the mental fortitude to keep moving and complete the course is just next level. So really, really looking forward to having a chat with Megan and what helped her to get across the finish line. It should be a pretty good show.
What about the fourth guest?
The fourth guest. Yeah, well, I managed to toe the start line as well. There's a little bit of do as I say, not as I do there. So I had an adventure. It was almost lining up for an adventure race from my perspective beforehand. So managed to get around, got the job done. Was pretty excited to get out of the swim and even more excited to get across that finish line. A marathon is a long way. It is fully confirmed.
Absolutely. And we will talk more about, Richard, about how you got on and your road to Ironman, I suppose, as well, which was a bit of a different choice of route probably than what most others chose. Speaking of routes, while we're here talking, a couple of things we need to go through. First of all, coffee culture. Let's talk coffee culture. And I have actually been given 3 reusable cups here from Coffee Culture to give away. So throughout the show, make a comment. We'll randomly pick some names out of the comments that appear to win a coffee, and we'll be in touch to post you your Coffee Culture cup. But this Sunday, Richard, is our annual Team CP coffee tour de Coffee Culture.
It is indeed, yeah. So this Sunday, the mission is to ride our way around all 16 stores out of Canterbury and Christchurch. So you can join us for all 16, or you can just tick off a few with us as well. So beginning at Coffee Culture Beckenham at 8 a.m. and rounding out the day with a Coffee Culture Lincoln. So about 16 stores. It depends on what route you take, but about 160, 170, maybe even the Ironman 180 Ks. What are you thinking, Angus?
Depends. Well, we'll finish at Lincoln, so that depends if you ride back in from Lincoln back to Christchurch, I suppose. You'll probably crack that 180 along the way, but roughly around that, around that 160. And the more the merrier, the bigger the bunch, the less work we've all got to do.
Yep, absolutely. So come and join the team, get involved, bring along $10 for your tour card, and that should be a pretty awesome day out. And I think you've already organised the weather as well, haven't you, Angus?
Yep, rain, hail, or just shine. It's going to be just shine.
Good.
Actually, we do have some competitors to compete with, because Sea to Sky is actually, or Sea to Summit, whatever it is on that same Sunday. So we will be we will be attempting to get up and over Evans Pass before we get mixed up in there, and you end up getting off the bike and running when you shouldn't be running, maybe.
Yeah, or accidentally doing a swim.
Shuffled into a transition somewhere that you shouldn't be in, and next minute you're out at Godley Head.
Yeah, that's right. So that'll be obviously the thing to look forward to. But they've got a good crowd lining up for that as well. So again, for those people that are lining up for a Sea to Sky, fantastic Canterbury event. John Newsom does a great job and an awesome run course. And all the best for all those people getting involved in that as well.
Well, it's been so great that there's been lots of events happened just recently. Of course, Coast, we've just had Motor Tapu. You've had Ironman, which we're going to talk about tonight. We've got Sea to Sky. So it's so great. So many things back happening again. Of course, actually, a big shout out also to La Race. Next weekend is actually La Race. There is still time to get an entry there and get involved in the iconic road ride to Akaroa.
Yeah, and that is one of my favourite events actually. From a cycling perspective, it's just honest. There's no bunch riding. It's just you, the course, and it's so scenic as well. And it's a fantastic day out. You can do it as a team if you want to, but pretty cool to get to Akaroa, sit down on the grass, have an ice cream, and relax. And as a result of a great ride, so yeah, looking forward to being a part of that as well. And we're going to be doing some bunch police supporting the riders as they cruise across to Akaroa. So yeah, fantastic day out.
Absolutely. Righto. Well, let's kick this whole show along the way there, Richard, and let's go back to Ironman. Let's go back to last weekend and where it all happened and where we crowned a new champion, one Mike Phillips. Mike, are you there, mate?
How you going?
Good, thanks, Mike. How are you getting on today? How are the legs feeling?
Yeah, not too bad. I guess about as good as you can expect after running 42 Ks. So yeah, I'm not injured sore, but definitely a wee bit sore.
Good. That's good to hear. I think that helps everybody else just know that that's okay, that you're a little bit sore as well. Just in that, you raced Challenge Wanaka just 2 weeks prior, and that's a pretty tough course, especially that run course. So how did the recovery go? And then how were you feeling standing on the start line as a result of that event that you did? I got second in that one as part of that.
Yeah, I guess it's a bit of a tough one too. I actually didn't know what the run course was like down there. I knew it was obviously off-road and hilly, but I wasn't quite sure the extent of it. But it's a hard decision to choose to race or not, 2 weeks out from Ironman. But I guess we only have a few opportunities in New Zealand to race. So I thought it's still a good training day. I did hold back a bit in the run, just conscious of running fast down that hill and sort of taking some risks. And I guess Ironman was always the main goal for me. So it was hard at the time to do it, but I think it was the right decision. So after that race, I still managed to do quite a big week of training before sort of tapering down for Ironman.
Yeah, because that's the thing. It's not just the race, is it? It's a bit of the taper into that race, what you do there, but also if you have to recover from that race hard, then you don't get those last key sessions done. So did you just basically just turn up and do the race as part of a training week effectively?
Pretty much. I sort of had 2 or 3 easy days leading in. So I had a little bit of a break for my block. I'd done quite a big block of training in the 2 weeks before that. And then I did the race and so that next week after that, I ran 110K, which is sort of quite big for me. And then had the week leading into Taupo. So I sort of incorporated that Wanaka with another block of 7 days of training before sort of easing up for Taupo.
Right. So a taper for you is 7 days generally, is it? Is that what would normally kind of look like?
Start backing off. Yeah, start sort of taking away the intensity from the running sort of 10 days out, but still doing a bit of work on the bike and the swim, Yeah.
Brilliant. So feeling good standing in the start line, ready to go, or you're like, legs are a bit tweaky? How are you feeling?
Yeah, I felt a wee bit sluggish that week coming in, especially I find whenever I go from quite a big load to not much load, I sort of feel quite lethargic. So it's always, you start sort of doubting yourself a wee bit, but I always sort of find once the cannon goes off that I'm all right. So I just have to have confidence that being a bit tired sort of and lethargic leading in probably means I'm resting.
Yeah, nice. And it's a big race to sort of warm into as well. So talk us through your race, going to toe-to-toe with Braden. He obviously strategically decided he wouldn't do Wanaka, which is sort of his hometown. Tell us how it sort of unfolded for you from the swim, the bike, the run, and did you execute your plan how you sort of wanted to, or did you have to make a few adjustments based on what he was doing?
Sorry, I think I stepped out for a second there.
Oops, back again. So I'll just repeat that. So talk us through your race, and how did you execute your race plan? And did it go how you wanted to, or did you have to sort of edit that as you went based on what Braden was up to?
Yeah, so I guess there was sort of, 5 guys I thought could probably win the race. We had a Swiss guy who's run sort of I think in the 2:30s a couple of times. Then we also had Sebastian Kinlay, and then we had my mate from Aussie, Matt, who is a really strong biker. So it was sort of trying to navigate that in the best way to give myself the best chances. And me and Braden sort of got a gap really early in the swim, which I sort of thought was probably ideal. If we could sort of get ahead and then build on that lead, or at least force the others into chasing quite hard, then it would sort of give us a bit of a better sort of view on how the rest of the race might pan out.
Mm-hmm.
So starting the bike, I think we had about 2.5 minutes to the group behind. And they sort of caught quite a lot early on in the bike, but then it sort of threw back out the other way. And then once they must have been a bit of fireworks behind us, because they all were riding by themselves by halfway in the bike. And the gaps were starting to get bigger and bigger. So that sort of was quite encouraging. From that point, it sort of became more of a me versus Braden race, I guess, as opposed to a sort of me and Braden trying to get the other guys, put them on the back foot. So then, yeah, I always I'd been riding quite well, especially in Wanaka, was I think my best power numbers on the bike. So I always thought I'd try and take the opportunity somewhere on the bike to get a bit of a head start on that run and just put Braden on the back foot. I know how he loves to race from the front, so putting him where he didn't want to be, I think probably threw his pacing out the window a wee bit.
Yeah, nice. So did he put you under pressure at any stage? There's word that he, like, coming out of the turnaround time, coming out of at the 90K mark, did he put pressure on you, or were you kind of working together all the way through the bike?
No, we were working together. I got my special needs bag at the 90K mark, so I fell behind a wee bit and then just caught up. But yeah, I guess I was sort of just biding my time until sort of, I sort of probably should have gone a bit earlier on the bike to create that gap and make it a bit more comfy. But I left it quite late, which meant I sort of had to ride quite hard to make sure I had some gap, and it paid off. But yeah, it got quite clear by halfway that it was probably going to be a me versus Braden race, so it sort of changed the dynamic a wee bit.
Yeah. So what gap did you have coming into the run?
I think it was about 2:50, starting the run. Yeah.
And he come back to you from there?
Yeah. So he'd caught me by, I think he took 2 minutes out in the first lap. So it's a 4-lap run course. Took 2 minutes out in the first lap, and then about 50 seconds in the next lap, and then we pretty much ran the whole third lap together. He sort of came and surged past, and then I ran back up to him, and he sat in behind for pretty much the whole third lap until we sort of got to those little hills just before town.
Yeah.
And he sort of put a surge in there, and I was quite comfortable just sticking to what the pace I was going. Especially, I'm probably at least 15 kgs heavier than him, so on the hills, if he's going to spike it, he can go ahead, but I'll try catch him on the downhill.
Yeah.
But yeah, he sort of opened up the gap only to about 10 seconds, but then he started coming back towards me quite quickly, just on that fourth lap. So I ran back up, and just as I got beside him, he got the cramp in his quad, in his hamstring, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was sort of shaping up to be a bit of a ding-dong battle that last lap. Yeah, I'm glad he got a cramp though, mate. It took a bit of pressure off me.
And so do you see that, like, I'm just sort of going to keep running my race at that stage and go as well as I possibly could?
Yeah, I guess the late stages of an Ironman, like I hadn't done an Ironman now for nearly 2 years, so it's always a question mark. It's not like in training you go and do a 180k bike as fast as you can and then go and run 40k. So it's always hard to know how you'll sort of shape up in that last 10k. So yeah, I definitely didn't want to alter what I was doing. I think I was still running around 4-minute Ks or just under at that stage. So I just kept plodding towards the finish line. I didn't want to speed up, slow down, or anything. So yeah, just trying to keep moving. And yeah.
Do you when Braden gets cramp? Is that the time where you start to look as good as you physically can? I know you can't always look all that good, but you just go, I'm just going to make the best form here. I'm just going to run the prettiest I can run right beside him now while he's cramping.
Yeah. No, I just tried to keep moving. I didn't want to do anything stupid. Try to pick my knees up. I'd probably cramp as well, and then we'd be in a real sort of sticky situation.
Have a walkathon to the finish.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Just like mental toughness, it's a big part of the race, isn't it? And in terms of how deep you go, and that marathon is so hard to sort of keep on keeping on, and especially when you're going toe to toe with somebody else, not just doing your own thing, but you're also racing others as well. Were there times that you were like, when Braden pulls ahead, that you're really hurting and didn't want to be there? Or were you always kind of just going, okay, well, I'm running around about the speed I can run, so I'm just going to keep doing me? How do you manage that mentally?
Yeah, I'm pretty good at not really getting influenced by what the others around me do. Like, I know Braden probably thinks he surges and I freak out and start doing silly things, but it doesn't really affect me. I just stick to what, I thought, we've got 13 or 14 Ks to go. We've had a big day already. I'm running under 4-minute Ks. Like, this is about as good as I can do to get to the finish line. Whereas if I went and ran like a 340 K on that K there, it probably would have cooked me for the rest of the race. So, yeah, I'm pretty good at just looking at it, sort of looking at the bigger picture and not trying to get too wound up with what the others are doing.
Yeah. So have you got any mantras or anything you say to yourself to sort of keep you in the moment, or is it just because I've done this plenty of times before and I know that this is what I can stick to?
Oh no, sort of. I try and break it down. Like, I sort of told myself, okay, like if you keep 4-minute Ks till 36K, you can cruise the last 6K, But then I get to 36K and then I'm like, oh, you can do 3 more K and then you can cruise the finish. But
Okay,
I just keep telling myself these little things, but I never actually let myself cruise. So yeah, just trying to break it down mentally so it doesn't feel like you've got 2 hours. Like, because you look down, you've run for an hour and you're like, wow, I've got nearly 2 hours left of this. Like, it's a long way.
Yeah.
Or even sort of on the run, you run out and it's 4 laps. So you go past a sign that says you're 4K in, and then there's a sign just after it which says you're 14K in. And there's one just after that says you're 24K in. And then one just after that says you're 34K in. So it's like, well, I've got to come back past this place 4 more times. Feels like a long way at that point.
Yeah, you don't want to know that stuff. That's right, and that's a great strategy, isn't it? Just to go, okay, I'm just going to run this many Ks and just do this bit, or just to the next aid station. So speaking of aid stations, they often talk about nutrition being the fourth discipline. What do you do in your nutrition? Do you stop to get that special needs bag as well? So keen to hear what was in that. How do you manage that for yourself?
So on the bike, I normally try and go quite heavy on getting in what I can. On the run, it's a bit less. But on the bike, I had 4 bottles of drink, which had about 75 grams of carbs in each one. And then I have another bottle, which is just full of gels just in the Aero bottle. But bit of a funny story. I went into my stash of nutrition before the race and I grabbed out a box of gels and I took it up there. And it was like 5 different flavors of gels all in one box. So I mixed them all together and put them in the Aero bottle. And I sort of finished my first normal bottle of drink and then I went to have a swig of that one. And it was like lemon and... No, I hadn't tried it. And then it was like lemon and lime, orange, raspberry, and then another flavor. I can't remember what it was, but it just tasted horrendous. Like, I had a sip of it and I was like, oh, I can't drink this. So I was probably quite a bit lighter on nutrition than I normally would be. But yeah, I kept the bottle there just in case. I thought if it goes pear-shaped, I'm going to have to drink it. So yeah, a bit lighter than I hoped on the bike, but I was quite confident. I've been doing quite a bit of training with no carbs and stuff, so I was quite confident that I'd still be all right.
Mm-hmm. So what was in your special needs bag? Did you have some food or anything that you got?
I had another 2 bottles of that same drink. I think they had Gatorade on course, which I struggle with some of those different drinks. So I just had the one that I knew and the one that I train with. Yeah.
Did you actually did you actually stop, put your foot down on the bike to get those new drink bottles, or how do they give them to you?
I grabbed the bag and hooked it onto my hand, and then I sort of undid that zip with my mouth and pulled each bottle out. It was a bit dodgy, but I sort of was able to do it and keep moving. But yeah, I was sort of a couple 100 meters behind, but at least I got the stuff I needed.
Well done.
Could have been quite painful if I had to drink that gel bottle.
Yeah. So no solid foods throughout the day.
No solid foods. No, just
Richard, did you have any solid foods, Richard?
I'm not sure if that's Mike should hear my nutrition strategy.
Custard square every 10K.
Yeah, I did have a custard square. Yes, halfway, just a little bit of a pick me up. I think it was more for team morale than actually nutrition value. Yeah. So what did you go for on the run, Mike? What were you doing there? Were you doing a gel and water, or were you doing, what were you sort of shooting for there? The Coca-Cola, or what was happening?
Yeah, so I was just going to use the ones on course, the gels, but they were quite hard to come by, I struggled to find them. I think there was only one aid station that had them sort of on the tables off to the side.
Right.
So I only got about 3 gels on the run, but I was just getting...
Oh, I think he's just frozen there on us, Richard.
Just having a moment as we're looking for the gels on the table.
Maybe I just don't think he wanted to. I'm just not sure he wants to give away all his tactics, is what he's doing. I think there, Richard. I think he's just trying to hide back a little bit.
Yeah. Which is fair. I don't want to tell the world exactly the secret recipe.
No, that's right. I'm so just he's hopefully Mike's going to come back to us in a second there. So let's go back to your custard square there for a minute, Richard. This was on the run, was it?
Oh no, that was on the bike. Halfway through the bike at 90 kg, you have the special needs bag that Mike talked about. It's actually a wee chiller bag. So the custard square was actually still cold when I got it out. It was a winner actually. It wasn't my plan, but I bought one the day before and at a cafe and didn't end up eating it because I had a bunch of other stuff. So I ended up slide that in the bag and see what if I feel like that. So yeah, it went down a treat actually.
Well, it looks like Mike's completely dropped out on us there. Actually, he's obviously having. Oh no, wait, he's back. So hold there, Rory.
Sorry, guys.
That's right, Mike. I was just
getting
to
the bottom. My Wi-Fi's bloody dropping out.
That's okay. I was just getting to the bottom of Richard's custard square story, actually, to be fair, while we filled in time. It's sounding like it could be something you could try, Mike, in the future.
Yeah, right. I wouldn't mind a custard square.
So we were also worried that you were just sort of keeping it secret around your what you actually did on your run nutritionally. So obviously, gels, you didn't have many of those. They were hard to find on the tables. What else did you do instead? Because you need some carbohydrates to keep yourself rolling at that speed.
Yeah, just Coke and water. I'm not sure. I probably got in a bit of Coke in the end. But yeah, it was probably on the lighter side for sure. 3 gels and as much Coke as I could take at the aid stations pretty much.
Yeah. Well, that's you've done very well, and especially when you haven't set yourself up for the gels with the tropical fruit punch that you decided to go for. On the bike as well.
Yeah, it was pretty grim washing out that bottle at the end of the race. I was like, had a sniff of it. I was like, oh my god.
No, that's awesome. Do you have any other advice, Mike, for others thinking about sort of the Ironman distance? Obviously, you're, I guess, not just looking to complete, because a lot of people when you first do your Ironman, you're just trying to get to the finish line. But what about someone that's actually looking to try and compete and do their best and improve their time? What advice would you give to those people?
I guess nutritionally, you want to find something that agrees with you and that you can train with. And I think training with it and trying to really push your limits is good. Like you can increase your capacity as well. So if you say do some sessions where you're trying to hit 100 grams an hour, say you'll actually increase your ability to use that nutrition. I think a lot of people do different stuff on race day too. Like they think, I'm going to do something special. I'll turn up and I'll make these super sandwiches or something. And, it's just as soon as you start doing different stuff, I think it's when you get into trouble. So I think just making sure that you try what you're going to do and that you have a good plan as well, like writing down where you take stuff in. Like a lot of people get caught up in the race and they'll miss it for quite a while, or have a period where they have no carbs going in, which I think really costs you in the end of an Ironman. Like it's all sort of a a game of energy expenditure and saving what you have and pacing yourself throughout the day as well as possible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, speaking of different, Mike, we noticed something different. You'd been riding for the last few seasons the Ventum, of course, famously ridden by the one and only Lance Armstrong of recent times as well. But notice you're on a Trek. What's with the change? Is there a change of sponsor, change of a better bike, or?
So I was sponsored by Ventum until the end of last year, and it was mainly just the geometry for me. I found it hard to get. I've got quite a long torso, so getting one that had enough reach and enough drop that could put me in the best position. I guess I haven't been racing too much the last few years with injury and stuff, but now that I'm sort of back trying to win races, like I've got to do every little bit I can to be as fast as possible. So that was sort of behind the decision to get a bike that fits me as good as possible and puts me in the best position to execute a fast race.
Nice. Well, I'm a bit concerned though, because last year we saw you compete through the winter at our cyclocross series along the way. So have you got a checkpoint or a boon or whatever the CX bikers of Trek? Have you managed to get your hands on one of them ready to go?
No, I just bought the Trek, so I don't have any sponsorship agreements there. So I've still got my Ventum gravel racer, so I'll be back there at the cyclocross.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And how on the Trek? So does it make? Obviously, it's a bike setup, and that's a comfort thing. But have you done any numbers or testing in terms of the difference between the new setup and what you were running?
It's a bit hard because I've got all different gear on the bike as well, like different wheels and different in a different position, which is quite hard to judge. But it is quite a bit faster for sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good.
Just talking about post the win, you've had an absolute fabulous win. It was in the weekend, but of course now that gives you the golden ticket to World Champs. Bit of an elephant in the room there a little bit. We're not going to Kona. You're going to Nice. Well, let's first of all assume we're going to go to Worlds there, Mike.
Yeah, that's the plan. It's always the plan to race at the highest level you can, and I think I always sort of thought if you can't win the race at home, then you shouldn't be going to World Champs. You know, you need to work out how to be the best in your country and win your local races before you start trying to get overseas and win the bigger ones. So yeah, I guess with a successful Ironman New Zealand, I'll look to go to the next level up and perform in Nice will be sort of my big goal for the year.
Is it a bit sad that you're not going to Kona though? Like, is there something about Ironman World Champs? Do you feel that the home of it is Kona, and it's going to be a bit odd not being there?
Well, like Kona's got a lot of history, and also the island presents its own challenges, which I didn't feel like I've worked out yet. And you know, when you're trying to do something and you haven't quite nailed it, and it's sort of in the back of your mind, like what can I change, what can I do, and then that opportunity is taken away to go back there and perform better. So yeah, it's a bit of a sort of sad moment, I guess. Like I was quite excited to have a few more stabs at Kona and try and get it right. But you know, I guess a different course presents different challenges, and quite a hilly terrain in Nice. It'll be something different and probably gives guys a chance that aren't so good in the heat. Like there's some guys that just physiologically aren't able to compete in the heat like they are in cooler conditions. So I guess it gives them an opportunity.
And what does the lead up look to you from here on? And now that you've got this one ticked away, you've got your ticket to the World Champs sorted. Does that change things? Have you got a bit of a game plan, or is that sort of what you're doing at the moment, trying to suss out where I'm off to next?
Yeah, sort of trying to suss it out at the moment. I had entered a race in Melbourne in 2.5 weeks' time, so I'm just sort of going to give the body a few more days before I pull the trigger on that one and book the flights. But I'm feeling all right at the moment, so I'll sort of probably try and do that 70.3 over there, and then sort of have a bit of a plan for the rest of the year. Maybe one more full and a couple of halves leading into Nice. I think would be a good run up. Yeah.
Nice. Good stuff. Excellent, Mike. Well, really, really appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for your insights. Great to get a feel for what your race and how you unfolded, how it unfolded for you, and how you end up racing to win and getting across the finish line. And obviously didn't all go to plan. Like it is nice to hear from our perspective that actually had a few things to deal with around nutrition and also, as you say, like just keeping in the fight and doing as best as you can. So yeah, congratulations. Look after yourself in that recovery and look forward to cheering you on next time you toe the start line.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys.
Cheers, Mike. Thanks very
Good
much.
job.
See you at cyclocross.
Yes, cheers, Rich.
How about that, Rich? The
Yeah,
champion, the 2023 Ironman New Zealand champion.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome, isn't it? And you taught him most of what he knows by coming along to cyclocross. Is that right?
Absolutely. Look, I'm telling you, Rich, I've been trying to get you there for how many years now have I been trying to get you on that cyclocross start line?
Yeah, well, I've been sort of doing the stupid sort of playing football across the course of winter or trying to. So maybe I need to sort of give that up, hang my boots up and come along and ride my bike and get muddy.
Yeah, well, Mike went to cyclocross. He finished what first? You went to football and you had a whole lot of excuses. That sounds like a football player. Oh, are we going to get in trouble for that, are we? Are we?
Oh, there's daggers there. There's daggers in my back.
Mate, how about that? How about filling your gel bottle full of a whole lot of assorted, like a licorice, all sorts box of gels?
Yeah, I have done that once before myself. It's like, oh, actually, this isn't the box that I was sort of supposed to grab, and yeah, I had a few bit of variety. But once you're there and committed to it, it's kind of what you need to do. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend it either from my perspective. But yeah, that is quite funny. Well done for him to have that backup plan anyway.
Absolutely. Hey, people, don't forget, if you're watching this, make a comment, or even if you're watching this later on, we'll draw this in a week or so. Make a bit of a comment on Facebook or however you're watching this. And we've got some Coffee Culture Keep Cups, reusable cups to give away. Big thanks to Coffee Culture for that.
Yes. Shall we roll on? Have a chat to...
Yeah, I'm all for that. I'm all for that, for this great guy, the voice of so many so many of New Zealand's great sports, and he's been the broadcaster for many, many years, and probably one of the greatest encyclopedias of Ironman, I think. I bet if I said Brian Ashby, 2008 winner Ironman, who was it?
No, it's probably Brownie and Joe Lawn, I'm thinking, 2008, yeah.
Welcome to the show, Brian.
Yeah, nice to catch up. And Richard, congratulations. I'm full of admiration for anyone that can back up coast to coast and Ironman. The only recent ones that I can think of in the past 20 years are Braden and Scott Emmons. Quite a few years ago, but it doesn't happen that often. There have been a few, but not very many. So well done.
No. I think did Dougal Allen and Sam Clark do it as well, potentially?
Actually, Sam. Yeah, Dougal probably did. Sam, I know Sam's quite funny, actually. He as an age grouper, I think in 25 to 29, or it might have been 20 to 24, he went on the bike course. And you know how well marshalled it is? Yes. Beautifully marshalled. Somehow or other, he managed to ride off the course. And you have to, if you ride off the course, you have to re-enter it where you went off. So he ended up, instead of riding 180 Ks, he rode about 225 Ks and still finished top 3 in his age group. So, that's how good he is. Yeah.
That is very impressive. Yeah. No, definitely wasn't wanting to do any more distance than I needed to, that's for sure.
No,
even on my custom square.
No.
Yeah. Good stuff. So Brian, you had a little bit of a different, like you obviously towed the start line a number of times yourself, but we're behind the microphone. It was really nice to hear your voice when I was racking my bike, in terms of just getting the vibe of the people and what was going on there. How was it for you being behind the scenes and sort of on the microphone this time around?
Well, more often than not, I am behind the scenes. I've been going there every year since 2000 in one capacity or another. I've only actually ever raced Taupo twice. I've done WA a couple of times, and I did Iron Maori Tour in December. They ran a full one, so I've done 5. It's plenty. The rest of the time, I am behind the scenes, and I've been in the commentary team for quite a few years. And look, for us, it's just inspiring, seeing at the front end of the field, Mike and Els Visser. What a wonderful story behind Els. But there was a great scrap in the women's race. In that cycle, it looked as though it was playing out the same way the men's one was, with the two Kiwis pulling away, and then Els, came from about 2.5 minutes back and caught up to them. Didn't just catch up, flew past. The wattage terrified the Kiwi girls, and she just kept giving it death, literally to the finishing chute. In fact, she stopped at the end of the finishing chute before that left-hand turn into the chute, because she had to have a big power chuck to. She was feeling so grim coming in, and then she was a bit of a shambles when she got to the finish line. She had given it her all, and obviously that men's race, something that Mike didn't say, but reading between the lines of it, and it was very apparent to me, was just how composed he was. Braden, I describe as a real pugilist. He's a boxer. He's a scrapper, and he'll never go down without a fight. And Mike, when he talked about earlier in the marathon, Braden ran back up to him, and then he just put the hurt on him again, but just kept the numbers up. And he knew, he kept the cool head, because he knew how hard Braden would have had to have worked to get back up there. And I thought it was a tremendous performance from Mike. So you're inspired at that end of the field, and then we're going to hear from Megan as well very soon. And the beauty of an event like Ironman is that people like Mike and like Els are very, very giving, and they understand people at the other end of the field. They're on the same course. They've worked really hard. They've worked day jobs, shuffled family, and all those things. It's a wonderful community, and seeing first timers, people that have overcome all sorts of adversity. Everyone who gets to the start line of an Ironman has a wonderful story to tell. And getting to the finish line is something different again. But I feel exactly the same way about the event as I did the first time I went there in 2000 and saw Thomas Hell-Regal and Cameron Brown scrapping it out, Lisa Bentley and Karen Balance from Christchurch scrapping it out, and then seeing people that just looked like us, later on in the day, battling to the finish line. So I my love affair with Ironman, it's never going to wane. I just love the event.
Yeah, fantastic. So Mike Riley is the man behind the mic generally at the finish line, but you, with him retiring, you were on the finish line as well, helping call some people home. Was it? Yeah,
I've worked with Mike for a number of years. We have a team of commentators. So for quite a few years, supporting Mike, Cameron Harper, who Cameron and I worked in radio together for a long time at Radio Sport, and Cameron's effectively lead commentator. He sort of organises things for us. Myself, Mark Bone, Cameron and I both competed. In fact, Cameron did Iron Maori with me and way up the road from me as well, by the way, in December. Mark Bone, who was National Olympic swim coach back in '96, and he's trained, Cameron Brown, Joe Lawn, Terenzo Bozzone. So there's at least 20 Ironman titles that he's coached in his pool. Anna Russell, she's a top 10 competitor in Taupo, and Steve Giles, Steve and Anna joined us last year in the team, and Steve's raced. He's a local from Taupo, and he's raced it a couple of times as well. So yeah, we move around over the course of the day to different sort of points on the course. I after the sort of the start line, I went to the finish line bringing the 70.3s in, and then Cameron predominantly brought most of the Ironmans, and he'd sub out, and I'd sort of jump in there from time to time. But look, it's tremendously good fun, and we all know so many sort of different people out there on the course, and it's amazing. 1,800 or so competitors out there over the two events, and it's amazing how many of them you sort of get to know over the years.
And just before we went on air, I just realised that actually I could have requested Brian Ashby to call me in. Didn't realise that.
There's a few friends that sort of said, "Oh, you make sure you're on the line. Will you call me in?" and so on. So yeah, I did, and that's really cool. Puts a bit more pressure on, because you don't want to sort of cock up their special moment, So you want to, and look, it goes back to what I was saying before. Everyone's worked so hard for it, and just done the mahi, and you want to that moment, you want it etched in their brain, particularly for the first timers, just how special it is. So whether you're Mike Phillips, coming in at under 8 hours, how ridiculous is that? Braden goes under 8 hours and doesn't even win, or you're coming in just a shade under the 17 hours, you'll be treated with the same degree of respect. That's very much the philosophy that Mike always had, Mike Riley, who was incidentally in constant contact with us throughout the day. He's a very dear friend of ours, and we were WhatsApping each other all day. He was having a great time. He still lives it, absolutely lives it and loves it.
Yeah.
Do you appreciate? Sorry, Rich. Do you appreciate the importance of the job, Brian? I'm sure you do, but to many people, like not only just calling them home, but like Richard said, he heard your voice going through the bike transition. The commentator has can bring such a lot to an athlete, can uplift that athlete, can really bring a bit of joy in those dark places and things.
Yeah, well, and everyone has those dark places, and particularly at the start of the day, and Richard's describing, if you're a little bit anxious, for us, it's about just keeping everyone chilled, if you're a little bit anxious about the swim, just reminding people that it's a big lake, you'll find some space out there. You can start 15 meters behind the start line, the gun goes, count to 5, then start swimming. You will be lucky to bump into anyone. Despite all those swimmers being out there, you will find your space. There are ways of doing it, and just encourage, just gentle encouragement, really, and steering them in the right direction. So yeah, it is a big responsibility because I'm a pretty nervous competitor when I'm on a start line. I get a little bit anxious about it, and so everyone's got different protocols. Some people sort of bounce in and they're all chatty, and others are really within themselves and they've got their own sort of little systems and protocols in place. For me, Renzi Hannum taught me a martial arts thing, tapping on the chin. It's a pressure point there and it helps relax you. Probably an absolute lie, but I do it and it works for me, and because he told me, and that works for me, and it chills me out. And people have got stuff like that going on, and I guess it's just respecting everyone's different ways of going about the business.
And do you get nervous, like in the commentary box, like to start the day? Does it take a bit to warm up, to sort of get in the flow of it, and things like when you first open up in the morning when people are on the beach, like you say, there's a great deal of responsibility just to get everybody calm and cruise them off. Is there some nerves from Brian Ashby on the start line of the microphone?
Oh, sort of, yeah. The first thing I like to do is just congratulate everyone. You've made the start line. Wow, you have worked so damn hard to get here. It's party time. It's Christmas Day. Just go out there and have the best time. Enjoy yourself. Smile. It's amazing what a smile can do. No matter how much pain you are feeling, you put a smile on your face and you'll feel a whole lot better. Might only be for a short time, but the more you smile, somebody like a Natasha Bardman, who won half a dozen at Kona, she smiled all day, and imagine the hurt she would have been going through dealing with that. So might work for everyone, but I think as the age group is further back, it hides things, hides the reality of the situation, disguises it a wee bit for you, perhaps.
How many smiles did you have, Richard?
Yeah, there was lots of smiling going on for me. There wasn't much talking, I have to say, but there was plenty of smiling and thumbs up as it went past. Brian, in your experience, what are some tips for others that might be looking at completing their first Ironman? What advice would you give there for others that are looking at this challenge that they might be into?
Trust the process. Follow the process, and people like you guys, Complete Performance, get a coach, get a good program, just trust it, just absolutely trust it, and if you do the work, you'll get through the day. So, once you've made the start line, then on the day itself, and Mike talked about this, the marathon, he was seeing those numbers, the signs there, 4K, 14K, and so on each time. So, very good friend of mine, commentator Mark Watson, a lot of you will know Watto, was a host on Radio Sport. Watto he has some outrageously silly lines, and we wind him up about them all the time. But they're really good lines. They're quite funny. And one of my favourite ones that he brings out, and I say, "Oh, God, say that one, Mark. Go on, say it," just to wind him up. But the line is, "You can't eat an elephant in one sitting." So in other words, just break it down into small chunks. And I think that's what Ironman is all about, you know. So if you're anxious about the swim, just concentrate on. You don't worry about looking up the first 150 meters, because there's going to be people all around you and in front of you. They'll be going in the same direction unless everyone's appalling at navigation. That ain't going to happen. So get your head down. Just concentrate on just getting into that groove, keeping your head down. Then you get to, say, 150 strokes or 150 breaths, and then have a wee look around, make sure you're swimming a good line. Your next target might be getting to the first mark, to the second mark. And so just breaking the whole day down like that into small chunks. And you'll be surprised, even if you're out there for, 15, 16 hours, it doesn't seem like that. Well, aside from the fact your body is screaming at you, but it doesn't seem as long as all that the time if you can break it down into those small chunks.
Brilliant. I feel like Angus is using this opportunity to get ideas and some inspiration for his own career in broadcasting. Do you have any other things you would like to pick Brian's brain about, Angus?
Oh, mate, I could sit here and talk to Brian all day long, I think. And I was just going to say, we were talking about nerves and things there, and starting. I was nervous doing this, Rich, today, knowing that Brian's sitting there in the green room listening and talking with him. But Brian, mate, thank you very much for coming on. Thank you for sharing your view of the Ironman and your pure love for what is Ironman Taupo, Ironman New Zealand. There's probably, there's some bloody passionate athletes that have been involved for a long time, but you probably hit up one of the most passionate people about that Ironman, and mate, that's what keeps it going, right? That's what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we love it. Those words, Mike, simple line, "You are an Ironman." Well, yeah, you've got that forever. It's you are an Ironman, and you've done something that 99% of the population might not even know about it. And you break that down even further. The others go, "Oh, do you bike first or do you swim? What order does it go?" And then there's a few people that understand it, and you're just part of a really special select group, and you have worked so hard to achieve something so special, and that is with you forever. And I just so much respect for everyone involved. And let's not forget about the town of Taupo itself. What are we, about 18,000 people and about 2,000 volunteers, most of them coming from out of the town. The rest were out there probably competing and so on. So any one of their gardens will look a bit shabby. No one's doing any work around the house. They're all out doing Ironman stuff. Good on them. Fantastic. I love Taupo. Fantastic place.
So, actually, I actually saw Richard's, when you talk about you are an Ironman, I saw Richard's email signature. It's now got Richard Greer IM written on the end of it now that he's an Ironman.
There you go. Yep.
So good. That's right. Good stuff, Brian. Take care. Thanks for joining us. Keep doing what you do. Love your enthusiasm, and look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Fantastic, guys. Thank
you
very
doing
much.
The race?
Oh yeah, no. I'm doing Sea to Sky on Sunday, but and probably City to Surf the next day. The reason I'm not doing the race is Mrs. Ashby gave me a jolly good telling off because I have to go and support her. The national marching champs are on in Christchurch next weekend, and my wife leads a masters team, Pioneers of Canterbury, and they are going to go close to winning a national title. So I couldn't dare go to the race. So it's time to support Mrs. Ashby. So
nice
that's what I'm doing. So next week I'll miss the race. I love the race, but I'll miss this one. Before I go, just big congrats to Megan, first time Ironman. Megan, you are an Ironman. Whoa, awesome.
Beautiful. Thanks, Brian.
Cheers. Take care. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Good job. I was just about last time we talked to Brian. We talked to him one other time. You said give us a Canterbury Crusaders win against the Hurricanes, and he broke it down for us. Commentated the last minute. I was just wondering whether he would have commentated the the national marching final for Mrs. Ashby to win
it. He's probably had the instructions to sit down in the corner there and just
so.
and
Just
let the band do its thing. I assume the marching band does its thing there, right?
Yeah,
oh, he's such a legend, though, right? Brian Ashby is such a legend. Not only, part of the voice, part of the weekend at Ironman. He's been the voice of radio sport, the coast to coast. You've listened to Brian call the last day, that longest day in of coast to coast for many years as well. And he's just, like I said, he's an encyclopedia. He's just got this incredible memory for athletes, years, finishes, all of those things. It's just knowledge that I don't know how he retains it all.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on something you said there in regards to the volunteers at the event. 2,000 odd volunteers there, and they are so good. Like they're just incredible. When Dion and Paul that I was staying with, we were all first timers. So when you go to register for a first time, they see that you're a first timer, ring the cowbell, everyone's going, "Hooray, first timer!" And then the same thing happens when you go and direct the bike. "Oh, these guys are virgins, it's their first time, hooray!" sort of thing, and lots of high fives, giving you absolutely heaps. And then, like, just throughout the day, they are just fantastic, all the way down to there was somebody at the finish line, and her job was to give out hugs. She was even had a plastic sort of coat over her just so she didn't get too sweaty and wet from these people finishing. So absolutely fantastic. And people have said that that's the thing that makes it, but it really, really is. It's fantastic what they do up there.
Well, I think it's a shout out to volunteers for every event, Richard. Actually, to be fair, even in the weekend at Motatapu, I was halfway through the course. And actually up on the highest point, as you're on the plateau up there at the highest point, went through an aid station there. And it was just cold enough up there as an athlete riding, but standing round there all day, it was drizzly and cold up the top there. There was a group of volunteers there, and they were cheering everybody through. And I thought, man, this is wonderful, isn't it? And so I wasn't in a very good space of my own there at the time when I got there. And anyway, I just happened to say to them, man, isn't the sunshine amazing up here? And it was grey, drizzling, but the reaction that they gave back off that was, it was wonderful. They were having a great time, and it was just a beautiful thing. Volunteers.
Yeah, good job. How are the legs today?
They're okay. Yep. Okay. You've made me do some running, the run group, and
yes,
you didn't turn up to roadies last night, so I had to help out there as well. And yeah, good job. No, going well. Let's push on, shall we? Megan's waiting backstage and really keen to have a chat to Megan. I was super excited to be involved and see you cross the finish line, Megan. It was absolutely awesome. What a fantastic performance to keep on keeping on and get across that finish line on Saturday.
Yeah, no, it was good to see everyone out there. It was a bit of a long day. I joked about making the most of 2 days out of a 1 day tri pass. I didn't actually intend to do that, but that's okay. I got my 2 days.
Yeah, good job. So let's just go all the way back to the start. Why Ironman? Why did you want to do this thing?
That was a wee while ago. So I think it was in 2014.
Right.
I was training for my first marathon in my final year of uni, and as a uni student, you don't train properly. But I was looking up some inspiration and came across a video on YouTube about Ironman. I looked at the distances and I was like, no, absolutely not. That is insane. But then it was just kind of there. It stuck with me for a long time, and I became a bit inactive for a while, but it just kind of kept coming up like, that could be something worth giving a nudge. Be nice to tick off.
Yeah. And here you are. So tell us about your build up to the event. It hasn't been all plain sailing by any stretch of the imagination, has it? So tell us about sort of, I guess, your challenges and what it took to actually get to the start line.
Yeah, so it was it was 3 years ago I did my first half. So it's probably about 3.5 years ago that I kind of started to think, let's get back into this and see what we could do. I hadn't done much in between that marathon in 2014 and at that point. It's been a journey. So I got diagnosed with endometriosis in 2015 after quite a few struggles. And I was running and I started to get a lot of pain in my pelvis. I was like, that's a bit strange. And as a disclaimer, there's going to be some period talk. My periods are getting a lot worse, and went to the doctor. I was just, well, that's just being a woman. You just need to deal with that. Just go back out there, do what you need to do. But it got to the point that I was having pain every day, and I would spend like days in bed because I couldn't do anything. Which, when you go from being quite active to that wasn't very good for the mental health. Eventually got some treatment. Eventually got a surgery. Was told there's not much we can do. And then it wasn't until much later on that I found a proper specialist who could actually treat the disease properly. There was so little known about it. And it was a really weird kind of, you don't want to be diagnosed with a chronic condition, but you've spent so long being told that what you're experiencing is normal and you need to harden up, that actually getting that diagnosis feels quite validating.
Yeah.
And then it's been just learning how to build around that. It's not something that is fixable. And there's a lot of things that disease does bring to you. And so it's made the training interesting. It's been 2 surgeries in the last couple of years. A few other treatment that isn't very nice. Just trying to get to find out how to train around it as well.
Yeah. So it wasn't until kind of December that you were able to kind of get into the swing of things properly due to that.
Yeah.
And then from then on, you did pretty well on the whole, didn't you?
Yeah. So I had my last surgery 11 months ago, just about to the day. And it took me a while to recover from that one. I was quite surprised. The one before that, I kind of bounced back and did 70.3 14 weeks later and was fine. But this last one, I just took a bit longer to come right from. So yeah, it wasn't really until December that I managed to do some proper work, and COVID had a role in that as well. I got COVID as well, which didn't help things. But yeah, no, from December it was pretty good. A few blips, but not too bad.
Yeah, exactly. How were you feeling standing on that start line? You'd made it. Like as Brian said, you've done so much work, and it's like Christmas time where it's time to actually go and actually do this thing that you've been thinking and training for so long. Yeah,
amazing. Like the few days leading up to it, I was absolutely petrified. I was so nervous. And then when I got to that start line, I was just like, this is what I've been doing. This is what I need to do. I can only do what I can do. I can only bring to this day what I've trained to do. So that's just give what I can. Yeah,
good. Okay, fantastic. So just went through the process and just walk forward to that challenge and got into it. So you swim? You hadn't done it much in the way of open water swimming. How did that feel?
No. I mean, the lake's beautiful to swim in, and compared to anything else, it's absolutely stunning. I don't think anything can prepare you for a mass start other than doing it. I tried to get down to the pool during busier times to kind of get jostled around a little bit, but I don't think anything really prepares you for that kind of start. But it was fine. It was just like the pieces kind of came together, and I just felt really calm and I was happy. And you did get jostled around a little bit, but there wasn't any need to panic. If you took on some water, it was fine. Probably some urine in it, but it was fine. That was all good.
Yeah, good. So and then your bike ride, your run, like it started to get tough for you. It didn't all go exactly the plan. When did it start to get a bit tough?
So my swim felt okay, and I got off on the bike, and I was having an absolute blast up till kind of the turnaround point. It was about 30 kilometers in that I realized that my period had arrived, and with it my endo was going to flare up, and I knew that was a possibility, but I don't think I was entirely prepared for how much that was going to play into it. I kind of thought surely the adrenaline, like surely I won't feel too much of the pain, but it came to the party properly. Wow. The second lap, like when I went off from special need, I felt good. The final ascent back into town is when it got a little bit tough. There was a bit of a headwind at that stage, and it was getting quite hot. But even then, I was just kind of like, we're almost there. We're almost off the bike. Just get off the bike. And one of the things I tell myself is, if I get myself into a moment, so I say, this moment will end. I will find something else. I will move on to the next moment. I didn't realize the next moment would be even more ugly. Got off the bike, started running like how I'd planned to in training, and my stomach just stopped working. I get really bloated with my endo, and I just couldn't take any nutrition on at that stage. And so I was doing the first half of the run. I was well behind time at that stage. I was going to be over the cutoff. And my wife was next to me, and she's like, "You need to run for the next 100 meters, like really, really run." And so I did a little sprint, and then vomited everywhere, and felt so much better.
Okay. Well, that's Yeah, good.
We were all at the back, and there was a train of us vomiting for a while. It was really gross, but we all felt great afterwards. Well, it was wonderful. But I didn't dare put anything else into my stomach other than ice chips at that stage. But I did do the second half of the marathon faster than the first half, so I will claim it as a negative split.
Beautiful. Yeah, absolutely.
But it was done only on ice chips, which was a little bit hard. So I did definitely feel like I ran out of gas.
Wow. So you didn't take any nutrition, any carbohydrates, any sugar, just actually a bit of ice in your mouth.
I think I had a bit of Coke in the final lead into town just to try to get something in, but no. Amazing. It was very empty tank at that stage.
That is as hard as nails, isn't it? Just there. It's very impressive.
Yeah.
And what made you keep? What was the thing that kept you going? Because obviously it was ugly. It wasn't pretty. You had to go deeper than deep to be able to get there, and to be able to make it through that cutoff. When did you start to? So, two questions: how did you keep going, and when did you start to believe you could actually get it to the finish line?
I think I never let myself believe I couldn't get to the finish line. Mentally, I felt there the entire time. There was never a question to stop. And I think that's probably a testament to training when it doesn't feel like it's going to go well. Getting out the door on those training days where you feel like you don't really feel like doing it. That mental training is just as important as that physical training. And that's what got me through those moments is I never thought pull out. It was just like, this is the best I can do in this moment. And if that's not enough, that's not enough, but I just need to keep going.
Yeah, good. And that's where that training comes in, doesn't it? It allows it means that you coach and teach yourself and build confidence that I can actually do this when it's ugly. So I'm just going to have to keep doing this because it's ugly right now.
Yeah. And again, I wasn't prepared to find the second wind after vomiting, but it came. So that was that. I felt so much better. I think some people saw me in that moment. They're like, gosh, she's going really well. And I felt wonderful. Until my lack of carbohydrates kicked in.
Yeah. Going really wonderfully sort of through 75, 85 meters, 95, 100. Oh, well, that's not so good.
Yeah, pretty much.
Let's flip it a little bit. What was your key highlight? Like obviously finishing must have been a highlight, but was there any other sort of highlights of your day?
I mean, all of the support really had to be a highlight. All this, like everyone that was coming out on course to cheer random people on, or other people from Team CP, or my wife and my mum and friends, and those were all highlights. And I had to remind myself that this has been in my mind for 10 years now, and I'm actually here, and to enjoy that.
Fantastic.
What happened at the end? Like, what time of the day was it when you finished?
It was 1:45.
Yeah. So what happens then? Like, you actually, because the reward of finishing an Ironman and like Brian says, getting that, hearing that that you are an Ironman, Megan Parr, you are an Ironman. Was the adrenaline just like buzzing for the next few hours, or was it just like, this is it, I'm out?
No, there wasn't much sleep that night. To be fair, I probably slept for about 2 hours. Then I was like, I need to get up and go see everyone again. This is great. And I was on the top floor of the apartment, so getting down the stairs was another test. But I was like, I need to go out and see everyone. And I had so many questions. I was like, who else? Like, how did everyone else go? So I had no idea at that stage.
Yeah. So good. Oh, you probably would have been allowed to go down the stairs if anyone else had known you were there. So tackling the stairs. No, Megan, allowed to go down.
No.
What advice would you give? What backwards climbing? What advice would you give to others looking to do their first Ironman based on your experience of obviously your training and the day itself?
I think just get into it. Don't spend 10 years thinking about it, or 8 years thinking about it. Just start the process, and it doesn't matter how long that process takes. It might take you 8 years to get there, but just start it. It'll go fast. The day might not go fast, but the training will go fast.
And we're 5 days from the race day. I haven't asked you this, but sort of like, is it start like it was tough, and you obviously went really deep to be able to get there. Is that memory starting to dull, and it's just starting to be the good things that are coming through? Like, oh, it wasn't too bad, was it? Was that starting to happen to you now?
I think that almost started right about the next day. I was like, oh, that was okay. And I think because I knew that the things that went wrong weren't entirely in my control. That I was like, I also thought, what a better way to say stuff you to endometriosis than to do an Ironman on my period during an endo flare. That was kind of like, it felt a little bit right in that way. I mean, I'm still walking a bit funny, but for the most part, it's the painful memories are just about gone.
So Richard, don't worry about that. He's still walking funny too.
And Mike Phillips was still walking funny as well, so that's okay, isn't it?
Exactly. Is there anything you don't remember? Like, I mean, that's a bit of a silly question. Is there anything you don't remember? Well, of course, if you don't remember it, you won't know, will you? But is there sections of it that are kind of like a bit vague and missing? Because like that's a bloody long time to be out there, right?
Yeah, no, there's definitely certain bits that I'm like, I don't remember part of coming back from Reparoa. I remember the final ascent, and before we went downhill, but before that, I don't really remember much of the bike. And on the run, I remember one stage asking if there were cats, and there were no cats. So it was fucking a little bit silly at that stage.
I think Godzone's got your name written all over it.
No, I've had that conversation this week. No.
Goodness, that's yeah. Good stuff. So what's next, Megan? Where are you off to next?
I think I'm gonna have to see how I feel in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah.
I think I definitely want to go back, and I definitely want to do another one. That's not a question. But I think at the moment I'll see how soon that's going to be.
You've clearly got the strongest top 2 inches of anybody I've come across in a long time, Megan. Like, I can't say enough how impressive that was. Like you say, if you endometriosis, like, it's not going to stop me. It doesn't need to stop us, or to stop people. It's that's just some of the strongest willpower. Just amazing stuff to go. Like say, for it to flare up on race day, to have to go through that as if doing an Ironman. Not that I know. I could. Don't say anything while he's listening. Whatever you do.
I haven't seen anything about that so far this evening, but you have
no good comes of things like that, Megan. But like that's hard enough as it is. But you are a true, absolute inspiration. That's about all I can say.
Thank you. It did feel, it hurt. It did hurt. I won't say it won't hurt.
Yeah, but that's again from my perspective, just so impressive, especially knowing what the course is like. Okay, Megan, you've done 90 k's on your bike. Could you go and do another lap of that 90 k's again? Okay, where you go. Megan, you've just done 2 laps of that 10 k's. Let's have another 2 laps of that 10 k's. Let's do 40 k's on your feet today. It's just unrelenting, isn't it? And just keeps on going. But as you've got that to deal with, but also the other things that are going on as well for you, it's very, very impressive. The Hard as Nails award. We'll have to dig out that Hard as Nails trophy and send it to Blenheim.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. It is true about those signs on the run course, though, when you see like 4 kilometers and 36 kilometers, you're like, that is a long way to go now.
Don't need to know that. No, good stuff.
Great.
Awesome.
Megan,
okay, well, you take care, Megan. Keep basking in your glory. Have you still got your medal on? I don't think you've got your medal on.
No, I don't have my medal on. I have showered a few times. I actually jumped in the pool today, so no, didn't want to sink.
Good stuff.
Beautiful thing, Megan. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for sharing your experience. Congratulations, Megan. You are an Ironman, and be bloody proud of that, because we are.
Yeah,
cheers. We'll see you next year.
Thanks, Megan.
Thanks.
Good stuff, Megan. Thanks. I feel like you're looking to sort of not just become an Ironman, Angus. You're trying to get behind the microphone at the event. I feel like you've said that you're an Ironman.
That would do me.
4 times tonight.
That's right. I'm practicing. Richard Greer, you are an Ironman. I've been practicing that line. Brian, are you still watching? Are you still listening? Can you get me on that team or what? I mean, we'll work for free.
Yeah, exactly.
I do anyway, Rich. Yeah. Hey, mate,
look at that.
Just quickly, we've had some absolute fabulous guests along this podcast. Ironman is such an enormous event, an incredible feat for anybody who turns up on the start line, and of course anybody who completes it. And Richard Greer, like I just did say, Richard Greer, you are an Ironman. You are a true inspiration as well. You lead from the front through Team CP, through your coaching. Let's just quickly run through your day, your very first Ironman. One, what the hell inspired you to do that?
Well, I thought it was a good idea a couple of years ago, and then COVID sort of come along. So then this time around, well, it was on, so I had to go and do it. So I'm not sure if it was a particularly good idea, but I think as an endurance athlete doing these things, it's one of those things you've got to tick off a bit, don't you? And back in the early days, back at uni days, I started kayaking because I was a sinker and couldn't swim particularly well. So let's do kayaking instead. So sort of went down that route more and more, and then I don't know, was it 6 or 7 years ago? Dan Abel sort of, right, I need to get the swimming thing sorted. So I did that and did the half distance and Motatapu exterior and things, and thought, well, we do need to try and figure out to tick this this whole Ironman gig off. So super stoked that I have, and just to go experience the event of what it's about as well was really cool.
Yeah, and of course we talked about it before, but 3 weeks from coast, you just completed the 2-day individual coast, third overall, first in the Masters. You'd gone bloody deep at coast to coast this year. Were you in? What sort of physical condition were you in when you took the start line?
Oh, I was pretty good actually. I was completely broken after coast. Like I was in all sorts of trouble for a good, like, I don't know, maybe I could still feel that soreness in my muscles. Like it was more than a week afterwards, probably 8 or 9 days kind of thing afterwards. So I went for 2 little jogs. So my training, I can do it on one hand pretty much, my training for Ironman. 2 little jogs. I did 3 bike sessions, so 2 Zwift sessions. So I got my, again, this is do what I say, not what I do. This is, I guess my goal for the summer was let's train for coast and let's go and have a crack at an Ironman. So I did 3 bike rides, 2 on Zwift. I had my bike set up by Anthony Chapman beforehand, like a TT bike, so I could ride that. Did a 32K ride on that, and then it was in uncharted territory once I hit that 34K mark. And then did 2 swims. So a week before on the Friday, I was like, right, I need to go and see if I can actually do 3.8K. I'd never done that before. So I got round and round and round Lake Rua. Okay, well, I survived that. Wasn't pretty, but I did just. And then the day before, I went for a wee swim in the lake, which actually didn't go very well. I was like, I just couldn't get any rhythm. And I say I'm not a someone that's sort of super good at swimming. So that wasn't good. And then even like on the, like Brian talked about, you could start at the back sort of thing. I was starting at the back, 10 meters back, but I was standing on the beach as like knee deep sort of thing when the cannon went off. So I didn't swim to the start line. I just walked forward to the start line. And then after a bit, I'd started my watch. And then even like first on the way to the first buoy, I flipped on my back like 3 times. It wasn't looking good early on, going, what am I doing? I just couldn't get a rhythm and couldn't get my breathing right and was just overdoing it. But after I started sort of changing my sort of rhythm and sight of what I was looking at, etc., I was away. I actually had a really good swim. Managed to basically end up swimming with the green caps, which I was really excited about. And yeah, so it went well. But
you're just anxious to start with, mate, were you?
Oh yeah, it's just like swimming's not a good thing, and it's just a total mind game. And
you either swim or you drown, don't you?
Yes, exactly. and you've got to get used to that. I think get used to that sort of situation of having you and doing that. So that was a bit average, but yeah, quite funny as I was sort of heading around and getting close to the finish line. I was like, oh god, how good am I going, etc. And because, as Megan said, you could see the bottom the whole way. I was like, oh yeah, I'm just at the finish line. The bottom's just there. I'm going to stand up now. And went to sort of stand up, and then oh no, it was far too deep. Couldn't stand up, and then calf cramp. Boom. Okay, now I'm cramping, and then I'm trying to swim sort of on one hand, and it's just going ugly. And I'm trying to look like I knew what I was doing because I'm just finished the swim, and here I'm sort of crawling out off the swim leg. So that wasn't pretty, but yeah, I was pretty excited to be there to get to that point.
Transitions. I heard good rumor that in typical Richard Greer fashion, your transitions were pretty slick.
Yeah, well, I actually felt reasonably good getting out of transition. The week before when I went swimming, I was average. It was like 4 or 5 minutes of trying to get standing up again, sort of thing, just for being lying down like in that swimming position for so long. But felt good. So in through that and out in the transition, and that was good. And on the bike, and I had a great time on the bike. One of the things though, like with Ironman versus coast to coast, was just the fact you're in your head so much. Like I had people cheering me on the bike ride, but I like, oh, who was that? And couldn't sort of see who it was because you're just sort of in that aero position the whole time. And the swim, you're in your own head the whole time. And then by the time you got to the run, you're completely stuffed and couldn't really say anything anyway. So you're still in your own head the whole time. So she's a tough gig.
Yeah. Oh, well, I think, and you were a fish out of water, essentially, weren't you? In playing in the Ironman, in with the Ironman. But mate, how does that how does that now? You know, you've coached a lot of athletes to their dream of becoming an Ironman. You've coached a real variety of people on a variety of events, but most of them you've competed in, you know, with Coast or whether it be mountain bike races or whatever. You'd never actually done an Ironman before. How do you now look at an Ironman, and maybe do you change something for what you bring to your athletes for coaching after your learnings from actually competing in one?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. I think the key thing, and this is something I didn't do and didn't plan to do, is there's just nowhere to hide. And there's those long bike rides and long runs, especially swimming is obviously as well, but the long bike rides, like, you just got to do them. You've just got to run long, and you've just got to be used to that movement that you have to continue to make time and time again. So I think that was my key takeaway, is just emphasize that time on feet, being out there doing stuff. So I think it's a fantastic experience, fantastic to be able to do. But that was probably my key takeaway, is there's nothing like actually being out there going long, because that's what Ironman's about. And I think one of the other key things for me, and as a coach, is it's about putting yourself out of your comfort zone, because, like, as a Megan, that was the first time on the start line. It's good to remind yourself of that. It's good to be a beginner again. It's good to go back to zero and sort of, oh no, I'm not sure how this is actually going to go today, and sort of go through that process of being nervous and all those sorts of things. So yeah, it was really good, actually.
Well, a lot of people nowadays moan about social media and how bad social media can be. But man, on a day like that, social media can be a wonderful thing for us people who are not able to be there and can watch some updates and things. I know we saw some footage of you out there, and one of the highlights, I know Megan was super happy. She got to run beside you. She was running side by side with you at one stage, albeit you may have been lapping her at the time. But you know, that support between our CP athletes and things, was that strong out there? Did you feel that along the way?
Oh yeah, it was absolutely fantastic, and you knew where they were going to be as you ran. Like from one perspective, it was tough doing a lap course, but on another perspective, it was awesome doing a lap course, because, like, as there was bits in the course that you sort of meet people going the other way, and then you branch out. So you got to see those supporters like 8 times, sort of thing, around the course of the run. So that was fantastic. I was talking to Keely and Lee just earlier the other day, and they were on one particular bit, and they were so enthusiastic. It was so good to see them. And Keely was saying, like, like, after I left, it's like, oh, he's not looking good. He's not saying anything. And I was like, surely I said something. She said, well, maybe you said something on the first lap, but after that there was just nothing. And I was like, oh no, I was that bad, wasn't I? But yeah, it was just, that's what it was. Like, I was doing thumbs up and I'm giving some high fives, but I just didn't have any oomph to sort of actually say anything. So yeah, that support was immense and makes a massive difference.
Well, you certainly did give some high fives and give some effort. Some of my other favorite footage that I've seen on social media and actually that we got sent early on was your finish chute, mate. You come running up the finish chute in typical Rich Greer Team CP high five fashion. You ran up the left-hand side, high five, high five, high five. Here comes the finish line. The finish line's right. Oh, wait a minute. If I go back and I double back on myself and run back about 20 meters, I can get the high fives on the right-hand side of the finish chute and high five, and then to the finish.
Well,
they called you in. That actually called you in, Richard Greer, and then you turned around and went away on them, and nobody come across the finish line.
Well, they yelled out really loud on that right-hand side, and I made eye contact with them as well. So I felt like I'd left them hanging. So I was like, oh, no, I can't do that. But that's the thing, isn't it? Like, actually, of all that suffering and all that sort of challenge that you went through, that was actually the highlight. So I was going to make the most of that finish line shoot, but oh, my goodness, it was pleased to get to that finish line. While I was running coast to coast, I was like, I'm really looking forward to Ironman, because I won't have to go so hard, that sort of thing, and be so intense. But it was just like, it was so intense, but it was just in a different way, like just to, and partly that's my fault, because I'm like, okay, well, could I run a sub 4-hour marathon here? And I was on track for that for a lot of it, but then it was just like, I just need to run to the next aid station. I just need to keep moving and basically just asking myself the question, can I be here? And the answer was, yeah, I can be here right now. I'm not sure how I'm going to be in 5 minutes time, but at the moment I can keep being here. So that was the thing that kept going through my head round and round. But then when you and as the dust settles and you think, oh yeah, that was okay, wasn't it? And I did all right there. And then you see the video of me running with Megan, and oh right, yeah, no, I wasn't that flash, was I?
Did you run all the way? Did you have to walk any or?
I walked every aid station. So every aid station I walked, I made sure I got on a cup, 2 drinks and a gel pretty much most of the time, and then run. Oh, and then there's a couple of quite good hills in it as well. So sort of I just walked those. There was no point, and look forward to that. But the hardest part of that run was actually restarting running after you'd walked, and then the negotiation that goes on in your head. That bush. Okay, I'm going to start running at that bush. Oh, I've just passed that bush. Okay, what about that pole? I'll just start running that pole. Oh, hang on, I've crossed that too. Right, I really, really, really need to start running now. So yeah, that stuff, and that was a bit ugly, but got there.
Well, good stuff, mate. You are, like I said before when I started this, you lead by the front, that's for sure. You certainly practice what you preach along the way there, and it was bloody great to see. Now, we do often, if we listen back to this episode and the previous guests, and the last question seems to be what's next. But, mate, I was just talking to your wife, Tash, earlier, and she said, fuck's sake, Angus, don't ask him what's next. There's nothing next. He's at home and he's doing the chores around the house.
There's probably a bit of that, and quite enjoying just doing the dishes, to be honest. Yeah. No, just have a bit of chill out time. We'll go and do the race. We'll go and sort of support ride that, and we'll go and to support the Christchurch Marathon as well with their new course and things. That'll be good. But yeah, just chilling out and doing a bit of that, and then like we've got our adventure squad that we're running across the winter, so it'll be good to get in the hills and just do some sort of missions and things like that. But great to be involved in, great event, and fantastic to get out there and do. Just before we go, actually, I just made a wee list of things that are like, what are the things that went well, and just to share. I think like practice that nutrition, and one thing on that was like having that half time on the bike and having lunch. So that custard square that I had was actually really good. Also a chance to stand up. I also had some chocolate milk. That was something that I've used before that actually went down pretty well. So had some food, but drinking it opposed to trying to eat it works well. Yep. What else? The other thing was like, okay, an Ironman, I want to do that, but I think it's a great idea to do probably at least 2 to 3 half distances before you do an Ironman, just to cut your teeth, learn about what it's actually all about, because it's a really good distance and challenging in its own right. Run your own race, I think, super important. Like Brian said, have your plan A, B, and C and D sort of thing, and just do your own thing. Don't worry about anyone else. One other thing, like the gels, one aid station, they didn't have any gels all of a sudden, and it was like, oh, that's not very good, is it? So I sort of missed that sort of nutrition stock completely. So good to have a little bit of a backup of something in your pocket is a good thing as well, rather than just sort of relying solely on those aid stations. And really the other thing is just don't stop. Just keep moving forward. If you keep moving forward, that you will get there. And just be relentless about that. And the other one is just acknowledge your supporters. Like, it makes a massive difference, them being out there, and the more you sort of give some high fives and give some thumbs up and things, then the more they'll cheer you on as well. So that's sort of a bit of a circle that helps you to make sure that you can achieve and do your best.
Totally. It's a good summary, really, isn't it? To be fair, and just interesting. The chocolate milk, does it need to be cold, or is it okay warm? Or
well, actually, it was in that special needs bag, and it was actually still cold. I put it in my back pocket. I said, "Oh, that's cold. That's quite good." So by the time I actually drank it, it was probably getting a bit warm. Not like Milo status, but it was sort of it did go down well.
Bloody good. Hey, Rich, thanks very much, mate. Hey, I've missed having you next door to me here.
Yeah, I know, exactly. We'll keep that one going for next time. But I really appreciate you on the mic, and it's been good getting back into the swing of things.
It is. So don't forget, everybody, if you've thrown a comment throughout this live podcast here, we will be drawing a couple of winners, or 3 winners, for some Coffee Culture reusable keep cups. You've got about a week to watch this and make some comments, and we'll leave it open for a week or so, or a week, and Sandra will do the draw and post that out to you, you lucky people who get to drink your coffee. But of course, as I mentioned right at the top of the show, the Coffee Culture Tour de Coffee Culture, Team CP's attempt at ticking off 16 coffee stores in Christchurch here is this Sunday, 8 a.m, leaving Coffee Culture Beckenham sharp. Matt Sherwood's going to come on, the man behind the Coast to Coast handbook.
How good, how good. So no, it should be good. Excellent, Angus. Well, you look after yourself and look after those legs after your Motatapu bike ride. And I haven't asked you what's next, but we'll just leave that to next time, shall we?
That'll do. Let's save it for another show, mate. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Thanks to our guests, Mike, Brian, and Megan. Rich, congratulations, mate. You're an Ironman. We'll see you all next time.
Good job. Well done.